Welcome to 30-Minute Talks. Today is Wednesday, June 17th, 2020, and we have a very interesting show today talking about Las Vegas. And we also have a guest speaker, Dr. Joseph Lema from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, who's the chairman of the Food and Beverage and Event Department there. Today, we've been talking about the COVID-19 issue for the last couple of weeks, but today we're going to shake it up a little bit and do something different. Today, I am going to give a story about Las Vegas. And the reason I'm going to give that story is because it's important for us to know how some tourist destinations began many, many years ago, because some of those same fundamental principles can be used today in order to rebuild our tourism industry. So I hope that you'll enjoy that session. Now we'll go through, we always like to thank our academic partners. LPU is one of our great academic partners. We always appreciate their support. The University of Santo Tomas, our Macau Tourism and Hospitality Association, and of course the International Master's Program at National Kaohsiung University of Tourism. We always look forward to some of their students who are in the audience today, and they've always been great supporters of our program. So thank you very much for your support, and we always appreciate it. But as always, last week you could tell by the evaluations, 90 Seconds was a popular show. So I've done another 90-second segment. We'll do that before we start the show on Las Vegas. And today I'm going to be talking about buffets. So I hope you're ready to see a second issue of 90 Seconds. Welcome to 90 Seconds. Today we're going to talk about buffets. I love buffets, and I think we all love buffets because we get to go up to a buffet line. We get to fill our plates with as much food as we want, and then we get to overindulge ourselves. It's great. And I don't know about you, but in the last few weeks, we've heard that the buffets are going to disappear because of COVID-19. And I've been a little bit depressed about that. But fortunately, the Viking luxury buffet chain, which has multiple locations in the Philippines, has come up with an innovative solution. They do not want the customers to come up to the buffet line anymore, but they will give each customer a disposable form at the table where the customer can order their food. And the great part about it is you can order as much as you want. This is a great way to bring back buffets in a safe and efficient manner. So I don't know about you, but the Vikings luxury buffet chain has done an excellent job in being innovative, creative, and coming up with new ways to create a new normal for their customers. So soon, I'll be going back to a buffet and I'll be enjoying it. And I hope that you too will come up with creative and innovative ways to adjust to the new normal after COVID-19. And that's all for today's 90 Seconds. Yes, another issue of 90 Seconds. Thank you for that. I hope you enjoyed that. Actually, the topic itself will fit into our presentation very well today. So today, I'm going to tell you about Las Vegas, how it all began. And underneath that, I have the first integrated resorts. So they didn't call them integrated resorts back then, but I will show you what I mean by that session. Now, if you don't know where Las Vegas is, it's in Nevada. And in 1892, it was developed by the Spanish explorers, became a city in 1911. And the key thing, it was the first state in the United States that legalized gambling. But Las Vegas is in the middle of the desert. If you look at these arrows, to get to Los Angeles back in those days, even now, 4 or 5 hours, sometimes 6 hours to drive through the desert to get from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. Reno, Lake Tahoe, Salt Lake City are all 8-hour drives. So Las Vegas is isolated, and you wonder why it became such a popular destination. So this is a picture of Las Vegas in 1941. That is the strip. That is the image of Las Vegas. This is the first real resort in Las Vegas, and it catered to the people that were driving on this road to get from one place to another, and so it was a popular place. It was called the El Rancho. Now, the El Rancho Hotel was a small Western-style hotel, very, very simple property, but if you look at this slide, you'll see that it had several features that have never changed. Take a look at this sign. It has a hotel, okay. It has food, restaurants, that's great. And it also has a casino, which is great, and it had a cocktail lounge. So those are the main ingredients of a resort. And that's why people started to stop here on their ways between cities in order to have a little rest and relaxation. Now, one little quiz question here. One US president actually performed in the cocktail lounge in the El Rancho Resort a long time ago. Does anybody know who it is? I'm looking at the chat room. Oh, this is a quiz question. Nobody yet? Well, it was President Ronald Reagan. He actually, somebody get Paul Whitelaw. Very good, Paul. Ronald Reagan performed at the El Rancho a long time ago. So if you ever get into a quiz show, you will have the answer for that. But the real key when Las Vegas changed is when the Flamingo Hotel was built. You know, you can watch those old movies about Bugsy Siegel on it. That's true. Bugsy took over the casino. But the reason that this hotel was very famous is because it was the first hotel with a real theme. The El Rancho was a Western theme, but everything was Western back there. This is a Flamingo. It was based on Miami Beach. They had air conditioning, they had a pool, they had quality rooms. And so this was an ideal resort that started to attract people. But the reason that people go to Las Vegas is a little bit different. Now, here's one hint. The neon signs at the time helped attract people. And if you see, anybody knew who Betty Grable is? She was a famous movie star many years ago, before some of our attendees' time. But I'm going to give you another chance of a quiz question. See, people came to Las Vegas back in those days because of the entertainment. And these were the two biggest entertainers at the time. So can anybody tell me who they are? These two guys right here? Some of our older students out there, I see, do know who they are. That's Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. So they would be the equivalent of having Beyonce and Taylor Swift and all these guys at a property where you could actually mingle with them before and after the show. That was a great attraction, and the main reason that people would come to Las Vegas was for the entertainment. People don't realize that. It was Buddy Wilkerson who actually started the Flamingo Resort in Las Vegas, and he actually owned the Hollywood magazine, so he had access to all the stars and celebrities and knew he could get people to come to Las Vegas to visit them. And then as that started to grow, this is the Stardust. This was actually the Lido de Paris, which is another full show that became part of Las Vegas's history, the entertainment value. Of course, back in those days, you could see the sign that said adults only, because it was a topless show, direct from Paris, and it was a fun show. It was the kind of show that attracted people because it wasn't being done anywhere else in the world or in Las Vegas. Theme hotels were sort of the thing in the beginning, so everybody had a theme. This is the Dunes Hotel. I'll let you guess what the theme is there. But what was the key about the Dunes Hotel? It was a quality property, and they had additional services. If you look here, they had a beautiful pool section. They had several pools. If you look at the top of the thing, they had their own golf course. To the left of this building was the first little convention center, small one, where they would have events and weddings. And then to the big, all the way to the left up here is actually a driving range for the golf course. So this was a mega-sized property and offered everything that a vacation or a tourist would want to do during their stay. So it was a popular resort. If you look at when we do a future session, I'll show you this actually is where the current Bellagio Hotel is right now. So this entire resort was knocked down at one point to rebuild the Bellagio. And of course, we love neon in Las Vegas. Another thing that was exciting in Las Vegas, I'll show you another picture of neon in the future. But as we talked about in 90 seconds, people love buffets. One of the top reasons that people love Las Vegas in the past and current is food. And back in those days, you could go to Las Vegas and you could spend maybe $1 or $2, and you could go to a buffet and eat all the food you wanted. No matter what happened in Las Vegas, whether you won, whether you lost in the casino, it didn't matter. When you went home, you told people about the food and the buffets. That was a key marketing attraction for Las Vegas. And you're going to see that same thing happening today. In fact, just like the Vikings buffets in the Philippines, I just read a story about the Wynn hotels in Las Vegas. They're going to open up a buffet using the same exact method as the Vikings. You no longer go to the buffet. You will get a piece of paper, and you'll be able to order your food at the table. So everyone knows the importance of food. To give you an example of the change of Las Vegas, this is Fremont Street in the old days. This is before it was closed down for a pedestrian area. And so this is the Golden Nugget, the El Dorado, some of the old famous hotels in Las Vegas. And then it started to grow. And again, neon was the attraction. When people came to Las Vegas and they would drive down Fremont Street, they didn't know if it was day or night because it was so bright. And that was one of the things that today people love to take pictures. People see things that they don't see in their little hometown. So they experience things that they can't experience anywhere else but in Las Vegas. A good example of how Las Vegas changed is this is the old Golden Nugget. So this was one phase where Las Vegas began to grow into what it is today. The old Golden Nugget had sawdust on the floors. The surface was not very good. It was a typical low quality property at the time. But then Steve Wynn bought that hotel at a good price, and he turned it into a high quality hotel with gold chandeliers and marble floors, and everything was beautiful and clean, and people loved to go there. This was the first real property in Las Vegas that offered high quality service, even though the area itself was not that great. So other people had to upgrade their quality in order to match the Golden Nugget in order to be competitive. Now, those are just a couple of the resorts in the beginning, but the real secret behind Las Vegas is the convention industry. This is a picture of the original convention, Las Vegas Convention Center. I remember going there myself. And to give you an example, it was built in 1959. And in the early days, Las Vegas would have maybe 14 conventions a year, 23 would go up to 66. And in 2004, they had 81 conventions. And in 2016, look at this number, they had 21,800 meetings and conventions. That's unbelievable, the growth. And why are conventions important? Well, because if you want to have a large number of people have a convention, they have to go to one place. They have to be able to have hotel rooms for everyone. They have to have restaurants and entertainment for everyone, and people will want to go there. So one of the secrets of Las Vegas is when conventioneers would go to Las Vegas for a convention, they would be busy for those 3 or 4 days. They would be going to their meetings, they would be doing the exhibitions, but then they would say, oh, I have to come back here again and maybe bring my family or my friends. Now, if you look at the convention center, the blue section is actually the first phase of the convention center expansion. And then you see the white area, the additional area. And even today, I know our speaker, Joe, is going to tell us how big the convention center is today. It's the largest single level convention center in the United States. And so the Las Vegas Convention Center brings an enormous amount of people into Las Vegas. And those people stay, they spend money, and they bring business, and they use the facilities, all the facilities of Las Vegas in order to enjoy themselves and to be successful. I'll show you one chart. This is an interesting chart because if you look at the convention delegates, I'll show you how it grew from 1970 to 2005. I stopped doing the chart a long time ago because when you look at what happens after you build a major integrated resort like the Mirage, you saw an immediate boost in the number of convention delegates. The MGM was built, more rooms, more convention space, another bump in convention delegates. And then you had the Bellagio, the convention center expansion, the Venetian, which added another 1 million square feet of convention space, and another bump. Wynn built another property and another bump. So how many people come to Las Vegas now? Somewhere about 6.5 million just for conventions. But add that to the total of tourists who come because of it. In 1987, there were 16 million visitors to Las Vegas. In 1999, there was 33 million visitors to Las Vegas. But then in 2019, there were 42 million visitors in Las Vegas. All the factors of entertainment, food and beverage, conventions, and hotels, the combination of all those things together motivated people to come to the middle of the desert for a tourist experience. And I'm going to leave you with my last slide here. This is a story. This is another phase when Las Vegas changed. From those early days in Las Vegas, the small properties were not very well run, and they were primarily focused on casinos. But then Howard Hughes, probably the equivalent of one of the billionaires that you know today. He was the richest person in the world. He stayed in Las Vegas and started to buy hotels. I think he had 6 of them, by the way. Elon Musk, somebody put Elon Musk, good one. But his quote still stands to this day, what people want. His quote is, "I like to think of Las Vegas in the terms of a well-dressed man in a dinner jacket and a furred female getting out of an expensive car. I think that is what people expect here. And the key is to rub shoulders with VIPs and stars." We may not rub shoulders with them anymore, but we still want to go to Las Vegas for the biggest sporting events, boxing, the biggest concerts. They have the NASCAR. They have so many activities that only happen in Las Vegas that motivate people to go to Las Vegas. So that's sort of a little story about the beginning of Las Vegas. Those fundamentals worked back then, and they will continue to work today. Now, today we're very fortunate to have a guest speaker from Las Vegas, and he's staying up late over there so he could participate today. So we really do appreciate his participation. But it's Dr. Joseph Lema, who's a professor and chair of the Food, Beverage, and Event Department at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He has years of experience in hospitality management, and he's also a Fulbright scholar through the U.S. State Department and has been lecturing and conducting research in the areas of international hospitality and tourism services for many years. So I'm going to ask Joe to turn on his camera. I'm going to unshare my screen here, and we will, let's say, Joe, hey, Joe, how are you? How's that?
Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
What's
I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas.
What's in that background? What do you got back there? Where are we looking at?
This is a live shot, and we're just a couple blocks. We're a block off the Las Vegas Strip. So that's some pretty big hotels behind me. But we're coming at you live, so there's no fake screen or anything.
Well, we try not to use too many backgrounds, but we do use backgrounds drop. So why don't you load up your presentation, and we're looking forward to hearing your stories and experiences in Las Vegas.
All right, Professor Andy, I'm so excited to be here today, and it's really great to be able to connect around the world here. But I want to start, Professor Andy, you did some really interesting history, and I want to start about looking at the entertainment in Las Vegas. But you might have heard this really successful advertising campaign, and it's what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. You might have heard it in movies, you might have heard it in a song, you might have heard it in a commercial, maybe even some of your friends have said it before. But it really became a cultural phenomenon. It was a successful advertising campaign for well over 20 years. So it's more than just, it says more about Las Vegas than just gambling. It's saying, hey, what goes on here stays here. And it really speaks a lot about the entertainment. It's quite similar to the expression you might have heard, when in Rome, do as the Romans. Well, in Las Vegas, this is what you can do here. And it's all about entertainment. So let's look at what the entertainment is here. Oops. It's a boiling pot of entertainment, and the broad scope of it is really quite incredible. And I think what makes Las Vegas very unique, from the shows to the nightlife to the pool parties to the theme parks to the museums to the art galleries, the musicals, and now we're getting transitioning into more live sports entertainments, and of course many of the famous shows, as Dr. Andy outlined in his history of Las Vegas. But you can see the glitz, the glamour, the beauty, the entertainment, the excitement and the energy. A lot of it comes from the lighting, but it's everything. It's the music. It's all put together in one strip that's less than 2 miles, and it runs north to south. But the synergy is really incredible. Okay, so let's see what happened on March 17th. All of that was lights out. And that's, of course, due to COVID-19. So what do you do when you lose all that synergy and all that energy? This has never happened in the history of Las Vegas and of all the events throughout the United States, whether it's a natural disaster or 9/11 or whatever. Las Vegas always was open 24/7, 365 days of the year. So this was really a huge impact, never happened before in this city. So let's look at the impact. And as Professor Andy had mentioned, Las Vegas gets over 42.5 million visitors a year. But let's look specifically here. And I pulled up 1 month, April, for example. And you can see that in last year, 2019, they had 3.5 visitors for the month, 3.5 million visitors. That dropped down to about 100,000. Convention attendance for the 1 month was over 500,000 in April. That dropped down to 0. Wow. Occupancy went from 91% in April last year in 2019 to a little over 1.5% total occupancy for all the hotels. And there's over 150,000 hotel rooms in Las Vegas. So that's a lot of rooms sitting empty. And then if you look at the revenue per available room, It went from 118, little over 118 in 2019, to $1.03 in just a few months ago. The gaming revenue went from 808 million down to 3.7 million for the month, which for all of those properties, that's not a lot. That could be a restaurant on a good month, going during good times. Okay, let's look at the transportation side. Almost half of the visitors to Las Vegas come by air. So in 2019, during the first period, the latest period, over 4 million flights, air arrivals came in. People came on flights, visitors. And then in that period, in 2020, there was only a little over 150,000. For auto traffic daily, there's 125,000 typically, like in 2019, that dropped down to 57,000. So a really significant impact. Last year for the spending altogether with everything was over $34.5 billion in spending. So this was really, really significant for the city. Okay, let's look at some images here. You see there's no cars, very few cars, no people on the streets, and it really kind of looks like a ghost town. A lot of empty parking lots, empty hotel rooms, 150,000 empty hotel rooms, empty restaurants, no shows, no live entertainment, and also no workers. So let's look at the workers. And in Las Vegas, it's very intensive employment in the hospitality and the tourism sector. So Las Vegas employs nearly 30% of its workforce in the leisure and hospitality sector, with almost 500,000 jobs lost due to COVID. Overall, in the United States, 65% of the jobs lost came from the hospitality sector. So you can see it's a huge part of the country, and there's over 350 million people in the United States. But 22 million people filed claims for unemployment insurance, which was unprecedented. It never happened before in the whole history of our country. So really significant. But there's hope. And as you can see on a property like this is the Wynn property. Properties like this would be losing during COVID about $14 million a day. And you can see that they've got hope and a sign of love on the side there. So there's lots of pressure to reopen. And also with that pressure comes a lot of uncertainty. How do we go forward? How do we bring back the electricity? How do we make Las Vegas alive again? How are we going to do that? And when are we going to do that? We're a couple of really important questions. And as we went through some of the history, as Professor Andy went through the history, you'll notice that a lot of these properties are evolving into big public companies too. So there's an added pressure there as well. So let me bring you to the new slogan for Las Vegas. Welcome back, we're open. And this started on June 4th. And you'll notice the wording changed a little bit. We still want you to have fun. But in the last part of it says, have fun, but be smart. And you'll see the face mask there as well. But also a repositioning on well-being and staying healthy as being in style, a focus of being in style. Well, here even Caesar and Cleopatra got in on the social distancing. And these are not the real Caesar, these are just actors. But it kind of shows you the Las Vegas. And here's some examples of social distancing. And we're seeing these in most areas of the world, 6 feet apart. Here's some other examples that have become part of the normal. So we've got our face masks, we've got our sanitizer and gloves, and these are positioned throughout the resorts. And then a lot of resorts brought in mobile hand washing stations just to make it more visible, especially on the casino floors and in hotel lobbies. Well, here's an example of a blackjack table. It's a card game, and you can see the partitions here and less seating. Here's an example of a dice game. This is a roulette table, and you can see the partitions between the players to separate them. You know, one of the challenges with these partitions that you have to clean them too. But it's a good way to, you know, minimize some of the challenges with COVID. Well, here's an example of using key QR codes for restaurants. And this has really encouraged people to pre-book, make reservations, which really can help restaurants, in fact, with forecasting and, you know, knowing when people are coming. And perhaps this might even change some of our meal periods. You know, typically we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Using different parts of the day, I think a lot of these restaurants have used that as an opportunity to spread their business out more. And actually with these QR codes, as the Professor Andy mentioned in his presentation, they're actually going to use this for the buffet, and you'll be able to pull up your menu, all the buffet items on your say your mobile phone, make your selections, and then the servers will bring the food out to you. So that's kind of a, you know, an innovative twist on the buffet that a lot of people had written off and said, oh, these buffets will never come back. Las Vegas has to have buffets. That's well known here, and it's a staple item. Well, here's a glimpse of the convention center. This is one of the largest convention centers in the United States. You know, in most big cities, the convention centers hover around 1 million square feet. In Las Vegas, it's so important that they expanded it to 3.5 million square feet. And sometimes they have events well over 200,000 people at one time, which is a huge part of the business for Las Vegas. They get almost 6 million attendees a year for it. So it's a really big part of it. Now, this was in construction before COVID, but it's going to have to realign itself now. And especially with the integration of some virtual aspects of event and so on. So there's opportunities for new innovations in this area. And I'll give you a couple examples here. This was an above ground train. It's it was to connect the Las Vegas Strip to the convention center because it's so important to get people in and out of there fast. Of course, ultimately, we want those convention center guests to get back into the casinos and to you know, enjoy all the entertainment and so on. But it wasn't enough to handle this. So it's kind of a slow moving monorail. It's been around for a while. It's still pretty good, but this is a lot better. And this is just going to be completed soon. It's called the Las Vegas Underground Loop, and it's a tunnel. There's 2 tunnels, and it's going to be 40 feet under the ground, developed by the Boring Company. Elon Musk is one of the students recognized. So they put $49 million in the investment. And this is what the cars are going to look like. And you can see they're much more independent. People have more control over their experience. And it moves people very quickly. And these are run on electricity too. So this will get you to the convention center and then get you back to the Las Vegas Strip where all the casinos and the resorts are. This is really exciting. And it looks like a really, you know, it's going to move people very quickly. So instead of taking a 30-minute walk, this system will get you there in about 3 minutes, which saves a lot of time. Okay, here's another area that Las Vegas is expanding to. And this started a little bit just before COVID, but it's focusing on live sports entertainment. And this is a new area for Las Vegas. And with that is becoming wagering on sports and esports, but it focuses on the spectator sports. This stadium here, this arena holds about 20,000 people, and it's just brand new. This is what it looks like inside. And here in Las Vegas, sometimes in the summer, we get up to 43 degrees Celsius. And here we have ice hockey. And that's actually ice that you're looking at. And surrounded by the ice, that's not ketchup and mustard. Those are people, those are spectators, elbow to elbow. So what about social distancing? What do we do with that here? And this is going to be the challenge going forward. If you look in the middle and it says Nights Time, that's a scoreboard, and those are really entertainment in itself, and those are worth millions and millions of dollars, huge investment. So this is the challenge now. We have this beautiful arena, but how do we bring people back and have them sit arm to arm like this? Well, we take the fans out. And what the National Hockey League did is they set up hub cities, and Las Vegas is one of the hub cities. So there'll be no fans, and then it'll be broadcasted over multimedia and especially through television. So there are about 30 teams that'll compete that way. Here's another example, and this is a new stadium that's going to be rolled out this fall. So of course it was built before COVID, but this seats about 85,000 people, and it's going to be used for the National Football League. And they'll do the same type of broadcasts, until this is all over, hopefully. Well, here's another unique concept. This is called the MSG Sphere, and it's a concert entertainment center, and it kind of transforms itself so they can change the outside of this. If you look closely at the pictures, those are actually bears, and it kind of looks like a world globe, but it's a really immersive experience. And why stop there? Let's go to the moon. So they can even transfer it or into Mars or wherever you are. And that's what it looks like from the outside. So it's really unique, and it's a real wow type of facility. This is what it looks like at a cross section. And you can kind of see below, you can see the fans. This seats about 20,000 people. And then they have the restaurants and all the entertainment surrounding it. But that's just the inside of the venue. So they'll have big concerts there. A lot of artists will come in, big name entertainers. So let me end there with this new tagline: what happens here only happens here. And it's, kind of a new twist on things with all the innovations that Las Vegas has invested in. And, you got to ask yourself, where else could that happen? And that's one of the reasons it kind of makes it the entertainment capital of the year. But ultimately, Las Vegas is still centered on human activities, and especially the live aspects of it, the live shows, the live sporting events. So I'm really excited to see what the future innovations are and the opportunities. And really, I think this is a great time, believe it or not. We hear a lot about the doom and gloom, but it's a great time for students, especially when you got a clean slate like this, and there's all types of opportunities to make a difference and to make some really, innovative type changes. Okay, so I'll end there, and I'll turn it back over to you, Professor Andy.
Thanks for that. Las Vegas. I lived in Las Vegas for 22 years, and you made me a little homesick there. So I guess I'll have to get back there and visit right away. I'm going to ask our panelists to come back and join us so we can get some questions from them and also some questions from the audience. I know there was a few popping up on the screen. Gentlemen, welcome back. Perry, why don't you start? You've been to Las Vegas. What do you think?
Oh, yes, I have been. And as I said earlier, it's been a bit of a while since I've been there. So it was great to find out what's going on in there and to see about the changes, as I mentioned earlier, and just to see what's sort of happening. Look, we've got a few questions here, and a couple of them I'm going to pull out very quickly. We've got one here from Bernard Lester Go, who's asked, what made Resorts World establish their presence in Las Vegas? Now, Resorts World is a company, if I'm right, based here in Asia, if I'm right. So I don't know, Joe, do you happen to know what they own in Vegas and what they're doing there?
Yes, they're finishing the construction on it, and it's actually quite close to me here. It's going to be a fabulous property, and they're going to have replica, I think, of the Great Wall. They're going to have a huge, it's really off the charts. I think they're going to have 3,000 rooms. So a huge investment, and that's the Genting company, which is from Malaysia. And I think that's one of the first Asian companies to make its way into Las Vegas. So this is going to, open up a whole new area of diversity for Las Vegas. And I'm really excited about that because I really think it's going to tap into the getting more of the Asian visitors here, but it's going to be a fabulous property. They have tons of restaurants. They're going to have a big concert venue. It looks good. The property's fabulous. It's a wow. Yeah, it's really going to change things here.
Yeah, because that's interesting because you know, Genting is a very major gaming
Yeah.
provider based here in Malaysia. The Genting Highlands Resort they've got, and that's actually got the world's largest hotel, I believe, at the moment, 7,600 odd rooms up there. But it's kind of grown, and they've added a theme park recently, et cetera, to do that. So it's quite interesting. They've obviously got the cruise ships as well, which are based, I think, largely out of Hong Kong. And now this big move into Vegas, as you know, as the sort of capital. So it sounds to me like they're really trying to establish quite a signature kind of establishment there, from what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, it's going to be fabulous. Yeah.
Okay, Alan, over to you.
Yeah, listen, Joe, thank you very much. The fantastic presentation, and really, really good to see what's happening over there. I'm sure there's been some numbers done in terms of all of the investment that you've shown us, and there's some pretty high-tech investment coming through. What are your thoughts? Is there been much movement already in terms of them attracting new visitation, or is it much of the same, or what's the thoughts? And I know that you know, America might still be challenged a little bit with COVID-19, but has there been any immediate response in terms of attractions and new numbers?
Yeah, and I think what they're going to do is focus a little more on the market here. You know, about 20% of the market comes from California, which is the state next door. But it's been, you know, it's not near to what they could be. But I think they wanted to start slow just to see if the reaction is, let's see how we can do with the social distancing, like a lot of businesses are. But the response, there's some pent up demand, I think. And people came out, they came out hard. So we'll have to see, you know, does this stay? But it's also, you know, Las Vegas is in a bit of a pickle that way because they have to be, most guests that come to Las Vegas are repeat customers. So we can't have them come here and get sick. Otherwise, the word will get out to the rest of the country and they're going to say, if Las Vegas can't do it, nobody can do it. So I know there's a lot of eyes on us to set the standard. Let's see how they pull this off, make sure it's successful, make sure it's good. And let's see where it goes from there. You know, I think in the United States, Hawaii and Las Vegas, the eyes are on us because, you know, we get the tourists. But for now, I think they're going to focus more on the drive-in market. And as the air slowly comes back and the borders open up, you know, hopefully we'll get back to, you know, where they need to be. But I think in the long term, definitely the international customer. We're getting about 20% from international before COVID. And I hopefully, you know, that'll come up later. If we can be, you know, tagged as a safe destination, really, really important to make sure nobody gets sick here.
That's a key thing.
Yeah, I think.
Well, let me one point on Las Vegas is they always have an advantage because they do have revenue from casinos, which other destinations don't have. And so what Las Vegas has always done in these kinds of circuits is drop the room rates very low, give special deals on food, packages. So what kind of special packages is Vegas offering to attract people back? Because you'll never be able to stay at some of these hotels at the regular prices, but now it's affordable for other people.
Yeah, and they have to get very clever, and that's where, you know, you got to have good marketing people. You know, don't forget, a lot of people, they're not comfortable eating in restaurants, so they might want to take the food back to their room. You know, is there a way we can get the buffet into people's room? How do we do that? It's not off the charts. You know, if there's a way to do that, they'll find a way. But there's a lot of different behaviors out there. Even you know, here in Las Vegas, the nightclub scene was really, really big. What do you do with all these empty nightclubs? Are they going to come back? How are they going to come back? Is there a way you can do special bottle service? Can we move it more towards the day, like have day clubs, which have been pretty popular here as well, and then maintain the social distancing and get, you know, clever strategies that way. But I think a lot of the, you know, the packages are going to have to give people choices. They're going to have to focus on safety and you know, make it help facilitate people's behaviors too.
Good.
Sorry about my voice. I'm in the desert here, so this is.
That's right. Well, because it was interesting. We heard about Macau a couple of weeks ago, and you know, the challenges, again, another destination which is has been facing with these sorts of things. So I was just wondering, we've got a couple other questions that have come up here. So Joe, one of the other issues that we're also, you know, interested to find out about, and our colleague from Lema University of the Philippines, Christina, has asked you know, Tina's asked about the question about what innovative ways have UNLV been changing how it's doing its education. The industry suddenly shut down. My hunch is a lot of your students were probably working in the industry as well.
Yeah.
Have they been allowed on campus? And how have you as a university been relating to the industry and to students? What sort of things have you been doing there?
Yeah, like a lot of universities, you know, we had to go online, and it was quite a shift. Of course, a lot of the internships, we integrate really closely with the industry in Las Vegas, and it'd be smart to because we have so many options here. So we brought a lot of that back into our program. You know, we're doing some, having students work with a lot of our alumni on new restaurant concepts. We're working in some competitions. We even took some of our lab classes and put them online, and we're using virtual reality. We're using some augmented reality. But it's a learning process. But I think, you know, from a student perspective, you know, there's the opportunities are just incredible. And that's really what I find exciting is that, you know, students they get to, you know, experience this firsthand. And you might think, well, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, but there's also a lot of opportunities. And I don't think we hear, you know, enough about that, frankly.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of silver linings to potentially the COVID cloud about how things will change, not only for the industry, but for education as well, because it's forcing us to do things. I think it's kind of going to turbocharge a lot of ideas that people had before. But as you said, you know, when needs must, you get on and do it. And as you said, Vegas will change and reinvent itself, and other things will do as well. Alan, Andy.
We've got a great question from Lee Sin Chen from NKUHT, National Kaohsiung University of Hospitality and Tourism, Joe. It seems like the world starts to witness the second wave of COVID-19, as we pointed out at the start. How will stakeholders of leisure, tourism and hospitality deal with the situation, and what strategies will they implement to attract visitors again? And I guess there's another double-barreled question there. How do faculty or teachers adjust their teaching in UNLV in relation to dealing with re-attracting visitors?
Yeah, we have to be sensitive to it. We have to be ahead of the game. We got to be flexible, be ready to change very quickly. But we got to be smart, and that's why it's in the tagline there. You've got to do this smartly and carefully, and ultimately, you know, the health and safety is number one. I mean, it's if you're sick, you can't learn. If you're sick, you can't teach. If you're sick, you can't go and enjoy the restaurant or whatever you want to do. So you really got to be smart. It takes planning. It takes preparation. You know, and keeping healthy. I mean, there's a high level of individual responsibility. And it's quite similar to being online. I mean, for many students, they might have, you know, realized that, hey, I'm kind of responsible for completing the course. And some of this I might have to do on my own. I got to regulate my own time a little bit. I've got to make time for it. And, you know, we all have to kind of figure that out. But I'll tell you, that's a really valuable life lesson. I think it's what employers are looking for, even though they might not use that language. They're looking for students that can take their own initiative, can make things happen, can finish things, can self-regulate. And maybe those are, you know, professor type words, but that's kind of what they want. And that's, this is where I think the students in this generation will be really set up for success that way. I'll tell you this, the patience that you have to have at this time is really priceless. And I often refer to it as patient resilience. And I know that word resilience gets thrown around a lot, but what does it really mean? Resilience means more than endurance. It's about coming back from something and being something better or different. And hopefully it's better. I mean, that's what we hope for. But many of us today have learned to be patient. We have to be patient and resilient at the same time. So patient resilience, I think, is something that will carry with us in this generation, certainly.
Joe, I can't think of a better way to end the show on such positive and motivational comments. We appreciate you taking the time from Las Vegas to share your experience with us. I know there are a lot of people that will be visiting you someday in the future, whether it be this year, next year, or in 10 years. Everybody in the world wants to visit Las Vegas. So again, Joe, thank you very much for joining us for 30-minute talks. We look forward to having you back again, maybe in 6 months, to give us an update. How about that?
Well, this would be fabulous. I love it. I think you guys are doing a great job, and I'd love to hear all the students' comments, and I think you're just a fabulous forum to be in. Amazing how we're connected around the world here. So that's really exciting. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Joe. And Alan's got what's that on your background? Alan's got a number 10 back there. Alan, what are you doing?
More than that, Dr. Andy. I don't know if you can see it. There you go.
Yeah,
Got the cake. Our 10th show.
There's the cake. I said we'd have a cake. There's the cake. Congratulations to my fellow presenters, and well done on 10 shows. And thanks for joining us on today's show, Joe.
All right. Thank you. What an honor.
Thanks very much, Joe.
Thanks, Perry and Alan, for all everybody's, but we've been working very hard as a team to make this happen every week, and it takes a lot of effort, and we appreciate everybody's support, and we look forward to continuing our shows for the foreseeable future. And Perry, your closing comments for the day?
I've got absolutely nothing to end with today, apart from just saying thanks very much again, Joe, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And again, thank you to our academic partners and for you for joining us.
And let me share the screen one more time, so hopefully you can see that. Okay, this is our QR code for the survey to complete today's survey. So thank you for that, and thank you to our academic sponsors. As always, without them, we wouldn't be able to host this show and have so many active participants and students. And just to go through what we're going to be doing next week. Next week is a very special show. Mr. Alan Williams is going to be talking about the secrets for success in your online courses. Why don't you give us go through those 3 bullet points, Alan, and tell us what you're going to talk about.
I was about to say that Joe ended his presentation so well, leading into mine. I thought it was fantastic that next week we're going to talk about how to be successful in your online courses. I'm going to talk a little bit about setting your online goals, dedicating time and space, and making the most of the online environment and making the most of this new opportunity, the new norm. So look forward to a fantastic, exciting show, and I hope we can help everybody in this time that you're away from your institutions.
Perry?
Thanks very much for joining us again, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.
And there's our last slide for the day, and I am going to be sending out the link in the chat right now for the survey. There it is. Okay, there's the code for the survey. So thank you, Joe. We'll be in touch with you, and we'll send you a copy of this information. And tell everybody in Las Vegas that we said hello.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Joe. See you, everybody.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you, Perry. Cheers.
Thanks, Andy.
Good day.